Hey guys, how are you? It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It is great to be with you. Once again, we have another great show. If you're new here, why don't you grab your smartphone and scan that QR code at the top right hand corner of your screen? And if you're watching us on LinkedIn, or maybe you're on another platform, or TikTok, or Instagram, well, then go to believemeachieve.com if there's no QR code that you can actually see that's visible there. I do want to thank you, whether you're here 2023. So let's get right in the thick of it, shall we? All right. But before I do that, I want to tell you who I am. I'm John C. Morley. I am a serial entrepreneur, and I'm also a podcast host and coach, and a specialist in helping businesses tell a story that leads to them growing and being more scalable and, of course, more profitable. I typically work with companies that bring in 10 million or more, and I love to help people find their authentic, true story, whether they know what it is or they need me to find it. I am happy to help you guys out with that. All right. Of course, you can check out all my great content at believemeachieve.com. But let's get right to the show, shall we? All right. So we are talking about Elevate Your Life with myself, John C. Morley. It's series 2, means we're in the second year. We are on show 50 and we're on episode number 2, everyone. Yep, episode number 2. So what's the topic? Well, the topic is unlock the power of decision making. What is a bottom up approach? What do we mean by a bottom up approach? What is a bottom up approach when it comes to decision making, right? What is that? So it's a type of strategy, and it refers to a method where planning and decision making start at the operational level and move up to the executive level there. So that is pretty important to understand that that's how it works. It starts with the operational level. All right. That is probably the most key thing to understand is it starts with the operational level. And so let's talk a little more about the bottom up perspective. So there are some key parts to a bottom up strategy. One is the employee empowerment. In a bottom up strategy, the frontline employees often have more decision making power and are encouraged to innovate and improve the process. So they're closer to the day to day operations. When we say bottom up, it's actually a good thing because it's coming from operations, not from your CEOs, not from your executives. Okay. And they're closer to what's going on in the field. Now, there's some other things to think about, like communication. Information in a bottom-up flow is from operational to executive level. And the employees will share their insights, their thoughts, their observations, and make suggestions about what strategic moves the company can make to go forward. And so implementation with a bottom strategy, implementing new initiatives often begins at the operational level, and it can result in high levels of buy-in and an adoption as employees feel ownership of the idea and the changes that are going to be brought forward. Now, there's flexibility and there's adaptability. Bottom-up strategies can be highly adaptable and they can be flexible, and they allow for quick adjustments made from the feedback from the operations team. Now, while the strategy can create a high responsive and adaptive organization, it has some downsides. It includes the potential for inconsistency across the area. And so you might be asking me, John, well, how do you create a bottom-up strategy? It's really simple. We got to start with our employees, right? We have to engage them, right? And reward them for engagement. Begin by getting them to become part of things, asking for their input, and not just asking for it, but making sure you let them know that you're actually going to value it and do something with it. Because a lot of people don't want to respond because, hey, if you're going to ask me for my input, but you're not going to do anything, well, why should I even bother sharing my 2 cents, right? I think that's a big thing. They feel like, well, my opinion doesn't matter. It really doesn't, right? And so they figure I'm just not going to say anything, right? Use meetings, surveys, or suggestion boxes to get input. And there are other ways you can drum up employee engagement strategies like contests on a website. You could have different types of contests in your week. The other thing is to empower decision making. So you have to start by building a culture of empowerment where employees at all levels are encouraged to actually, yes, to input what they want to share, and let them know that that input is going to be welcome, no matter what it is, just as long as it's positive. And they always can be positive in a lot of different ways. So make sure that that input is positive. It can be constructive. Okay. Um, it also involves granting permission and ensuring employees have the information and the resources needed to make the informed decisions. Strategic decision-making process and examples are a part of this. Open communication channels, right? So open communication channels are something we don't just talk about, it's something we do. So we want to develop transparent, open communication channels for our employees to share their feedback with upper management, and let them know that upper management is going to not only pay attention to the feedback, but they're going to act upon it. And I think that's a really, really cool thing. So the internal communication strategy and planning is something that a lot of companies don't know where to start from. So a good way to do this is, again, encouraging the communication. Once you've encouraged the communication, maybe you can put together a process flow diagram to show people how their ideas will literally come up the chain. I think that is really something that'll motivate people. Now, the other thing you can do is start from day one with a training and development program. Now, this might sound complicated, but it actually is not. The best thing to do is to create a structured training program, investing in training and developing to ensure that employees and everyone in the company has the skills that they need to be able to contribute on, a constant basis whenever they feel like it. Letting them know that if something is not the way they think it should be, let them speak up, because when they speak up, their voice can be heard, and chances are a change is going to be made. Now, it could be holding critical thinking workshops, problem solving, or specific technical training skills. Whatever it is, find out what your staff needs and what you could do to present this to them. It might be a good idea to maybe have the executive team come down and maybe share some of their things. Make the training not just for the operational people, but for the C-level executives, and let them all be part of it. I think that's a great way to create a bonding session where you know that they're going to value your feedback. That's the most important thing. So recognition and reward. We've heard about recognition and reward, but the thing about recognition and reward is that we have to follow it on a daily basis. We can't just do it because, hey, today we want to do this way, or today we want to do that way. That is the most important thing. We have to make sure that we are following that. So acknowledge and reward employees who contribute valuable ideas or improvements. It might be something as simple as, the employee that puts the most valuable feedback in is eligible for a TV or something, or it could be a day off. Now, it could be a formal recognition program, or it could be informal, such as like at dinners or things like that, or maybe it's publishing them in the newsletter and letting them know about what's going on. So recognize the contributions, reinforce the importance of the employee involvement, and encourage ongoing participation. By doing this and breeding this type of culture, you're going to see more people are going to want to jump on the bandwagon and get involved. That's what you're going to notice. Now, it's not going to happen on day one, but if this culture keeps going like this, people are going to want to be part of what you are doing. This is a hands down win-win for everyone. Now, flexible structures and process is important. If you have a company and the process is too complicated, then no one's ever going to want to get involved because there's just so much red tape. I once knew there was a company I did business with, and they said, we're really interested in your feedback. Well, that's great. They're interested. But then when we submitted feedback, it's like they said, oh, sorry, we're not interested in that feedback anymore because that chapter is closed. Well, it should never be closed. See, that's an oxymoron where they're telling you that they want you to give feedback because That's what they're being told by their management, but really they don't want your feedback. So you have to make sure that the company cross-functional team, or maybe flattening out organizational hierarchies, letting people know what the hierarchies are, letting people know like what's the order or the chain of command. That could be a big challenge if you don't actually know why or how something goes. Like, I want to present this plan, but who is actually in charge of the finances, or who's in charge of this store, or who is the one that's going to pull the trigger on whether we use this vendor or don't use this vendor? Like, who's going to do that? See, these are all important things that you need to know. Align the promises. Now, some people call them goals. I call them promises. Make sure the organization's overall promises or goals are well communicated and understood by everyone. A good thing to do is to have a lunch and learn. And on that lunch and learn, that's a great time to say, hey, these are our company's goals or promises. These are our missions. This is what we're going to do. And we just want to get your feedback about what you think about this. And then there might even be a process where you vote to see if these are the things we should be going for, right? And they have to be in alignment. Then encourage each department or team to get behind the promises with their overall objective. So let's just say, for example, you're working with a town, and the whole idea is to become more transparent to not only applicants, to, let's say, neighbors in the town, to other employees, right? We want to be transparent. So maybe if we're talking about the buildings and codes department, what we'll do to be transparent is we'll make sure that everyone understands the rules before they apply. We'll have meetings once a month for anyone that has never put an application in our town, for new contractors that are just working with us. When it comes time for working with the mayor, we're going to have a open forum every single week that you can sign up for, either online or in person, and actually talk with him or her. What else? Maybe there's some issues with ordinances, or it could be something as simple of knowing when the planning board meeting is, or when the let's say the council meeting is. Being transparent means that everybody knows what's going on. So what does transparent mean? Well, transparent is capable of transmitting light so that lights or objects can be seen as if there were no intervening materials. But when we think about transparent with people, it means that what's happening has no hidden agendas. Everyone understands that we're being transparent, that we're letting you know what's going on in your life, that we're letting you know what's going on when you make an application. We're going to be truly transparent with you and let you know that if you don't have this, 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 and this, well, it's going to get denied immediately. And this is a standard that we put in several years ago because we don't want to waste the council's time with applications that are not proper. Now, we have workshops once a month where we're happy to help you put together the information so you can propose it properly and it can get accepted. Transparency is knowing how something is working, okay? Knowing how something's working, like a process, and that there's nothing hidden, right? That let's say if they're picking new vendors at the town. Well, complete transparency would be that, we are opening this up to our local vendors right here in town. And if we don't find anybody in town, we're going to go to the next town, then we'll go to the third town, and then we'll open it up to anyone in the county and then anyone in the state. But we want to be completely transparent with you that as long as your application is in and it's approved by the 30th of the previous month, it will be considered for items for the referendum on the next month in the council meeting. So you get the idea how we did that. So a bottom-up approach is pretty cool, but you have to make sure you have the right culture in place, and that gets done by training them, right? Now, a lot of times you might say, John, this sounds great, okay? But how does it work? And it works because you understand why something is doing it, right? And again, when we think about going from the bottom up, and we're going to talk about top down as well, but bottom up is very important because you start to understand that management sometimes gets in the way. And by doing a bottom up approach, you're able to ensure that your ideas are passed through and they get all the way up to management. And by being completely transparent, every idea that is petitioned to the C-level executives is going to be published on the weekly newsletter. So everyone's going to know. And if something's not there, you can reach out to us and ask us, what happened? Why is it not published? It might be something like the class was wrong. It might be that when you made the request, you included names that weren't supposed to be included. And to keep this positive, we can't have mudslinging, right? So these are just some important things. So discovering the bottom-up perspective, I think, is really key and something that a lot of companies should embrace, because if you don't embrace it, you might be missing the true gems of your organization, the ones that could be making your company successful a lot sooner than waiting for the C-level executive team. I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It has been an amazing privilege, pleasure, and honor to be with you this fantastic evening, Sunday, December 10th, 2023. You know I'm John C. Morley. I am a serial entrepreneur, and I'm a podcast host, and I'm a podcast coach, and a specialist in helping businesses tell a story that leads to them growing and being more scalable and, of course, more profitable. I typically work with companies that bring in 10 million or more. They're passionate about their story. They either know the story, they don't know the story, but they want a story from truth. And that's why people want to reach out to me, because I am passionate about creating stories. Being a member of the International Press Association now, celebrating my 7th year this November, I'm very grateful to have these skills and to be able to exemplify people in a way that characterizes and highlights their truth. I hope you guys have an amazing evening. Do click on the PayPal link and make the choice, ladies and gentlemen, to buy my team and I a cup of coffee, a bowl of fruit, or how about a scrumptious bowl of delicious desserts? And we'll invest that into new hardware, new technology, new equipment, new software, even new facilities to give you the most jaw-dropping, motivational content to empower you. But remember, if your organization is not doing a bottom-up approach, why not try it out for something and see if it maybe just get your project done a little more efficiently and with a little more buy-in from the entire company. Take care and have a good